that what we're dealing with here is a pandemic of unvaccinated fellow citizens.
Got home after a 12-and-a-half-hour shift in the COVID world. I didn't get a breakfast. I didn't get a lunch. I didn't even get to drink water today. And today was so bad. It's worse than last year. And I hate my job. And I don't want to go back. And it's hard because I can only do what I can do. And there's just too many sick people and too little bit of employees. And it's not fair to our patients. It's not fair to us. And it sucks and it's hard. And I just want to quit and give up. And it looks like it's never going to get better.
Hundreds of people demonstrating against COVID protocols such as vaccinations showed up across the country today. In some cases, patients needing life-saving treatment could only enter under police escort. One doctor posted this sign out of frustration, only to be told later to take it down. This as nearly 4,000 new infections and 40 more deaths were reported across the country.
Across the country, those against pandemic protocols lined up to voice their opposition.
It is extremely unfair.
Some who say they're being forced to choose between a jab or their job.
Never in the history of this country has this kind of behavior been pushed upon its citizens, and it is wrong.
An organization calling itself the Canadian Frontline Nurses held what it called silent vigils in front of legislatures, city halls, and most pointedly hospitals.
People have come here to be healed, not to be harassed.
This 87-year-old and her daughter needed a police escort to get through the crowd for treatment.
The doctors are tired, the nurses are tired, everybody's tired of taking care of people.
Health workers say these demonstrations only add to their fatigue and distress.
Stay away from patients. Stay away from healthcare workers. Leave us alone and leave our patients alone.
I don't have a problem with it. Nobody's harassing anyone.
Despite boosted security and fencing, the gatherings were relatively peaceful, but frontline workers say it's part of a campaign of harassment against them.
Wearing that self-identify us as healthcare workers, it used to be a source of pride, and now it's a source of fear.
Meanwhile, inside many hospitals are a growing number of COVID patients. Vaccinations may be a personal choice, but doctors say going without has serious consequences.
In our entire hospital, about 90% of all the new admissions with COVID are unvaccinated.
Never gonna get better. I have 3 different patients' blood on my scrubs. I have COVID urine on my pants. I did a lot of CPR today and a lot of bagging. And I saw people grab my hand and tell me to help them to live and they don't want to die. And then I had people tell me, just leave me alone and let me go already. And just let me die. I don't want to be here anymore. I hate this. It's never gonna go away. It's gonna get worse. And I don't want to do this anymore.
The Ontario legislature was supposed to resume sitting today, but Doug Ford postponed the new session until after the federal election. The Premier was nowhere to be seen today, but the opposition stood right here outside Queen's Park, calling for hospitals to be safe zones free of protests, and said they should hold them here instead. Now, protesting is a fundamental right, and I asked Andrea Horvath if it's a slippery slope deciding when and where people can gather.
Healthcare is also a basic right that we all have. We have a universal healthcare system, and we have a right to get to our workplaces of work unimpeded.
Toronto Mayor John Tory also condemned the protests, calling them irresponsible.
Who's going to look after any of these people that are protesting if they get sick? It's the very same people inside that hospital building that they're obstructing from going to work and abusing. I mean, it's just beyond comprehension.
But Premier Doug Ford today was silent. Yesterday on Twitter, he called the hospital protests, quote, selfish, cowardly, and reckless. When City News asked today why he won't make hospitals safe zones, his spokesperson responded, saying, we support law enforcement, taking every step necessary to protect healthcare workers, patients, and their families. Ford is no doubt protecting his base, keeping an eye on this June's provincial election.
Why should we be condemned for our choice?
Every politician, though, is watching these growing signs of anger. People's Party of Canada leader Maxime Bernier, who narrowly lost the Conservative Party leadership in 2017, has been tapping into anti-government and anti-vax fury. He's seen a rise in the polls. Just 2 years ago in the last election, he got around 1% support. Pollsters today are showing he has anywhere from 5 to 10% support, a significant increase. Last week, gravel was thrown at Justin Trudeau on the campaign trail. Police have since charged Shane Marshall, who as a result was fired as president of the People's Party of Canada's Elgin Middlesex London Riding Association. This woman was at today's hospital protest wearing a PPC hat and explained why she supports the party.
They're the only party that is saying your health is not a government mandate. Your health is up to you. Everybody has bodily sovereignty. And that's the party you got to support right now.
As for Justin Trudeau today, he also condemned the hospital protests and promised if elected again, he'll make it a criminal offense to block access to a healthcare facility or intimidate or threaten healthcare professionals or any other patients seeking medical care.
Freedom of choice. People need to have right to choose what they're doing with their bodies. It's not even about vaccinated or not vaccinated at this point. It's the right to choose what's right for you. I was here last time. Nobody stopped any traffic in and out of the hospitals. Nothing was happening. If you don't have the right to rally and protest, what are our rights in this country? Like, that is our basic right as Canadian. To stand up for what's right. And he can absolutely have those opinions they want, but we can have ours as well.
If vaccine passports hit our streets, we are a segregated society once again. We remember what segregation has done over the years, and it's wrong for it to happen in Canada. It should be freedom of choice, body autonomy. I speak for my own health.
At the beginning, I was scared. I was scared to speak out because of my job, because I have 3 little babies to feed. But now that I'm on mat leave, and I know I guess I don't get to go back now because I'm not getting the shot because my right to refuse, I've been forcibly punished for that and forcibly fired for that. So I guess it's just the tables have turned, and I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not scared to speak out. I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this because I want to teach my kids to stand up for what you believe in and to not be afraid no matter the cost.
I'll tell you, my biggest reason is because there are 60,000 medical professionals who are not allowed to speak. They've been silenced from the beginning, and I think that's atrocious in a democracy. This should not be happening. We used to have debates before. What do we have now? Nothing. There's only one point of view, and the rest of us are not allowed to say anything. Why is that? Are we in Canada or are we in commie Canada? I don't understand that.
目前呢，我们针对德尔塔的还有贝塔的这个变异毒株的苗呢，已经制备出来了。那么我们广谱的2代的这个重组蛋白的疫苗也已经研发出来，正在临床，已经完成了1、2期。 我们原来的灭活疫苗呢，本身对它是全病毒的灭活的疫苗，所以它整个对变异的毒株本身就是有效的。我们2代疫苗可能针对性更强一些，紧紧的追踪的变异病毒，在开发我们的新疫苗。我们还有3款诊断产品：快速核酸检测试剂和综合抗体检测试剂。最快是17分钟，我们一般是30分钟到17分钟。它是通过了欧盟认证，在英国的有关机场、阿联酋的机场在使用。
What we're dealing with here is a pandemic of unvaccinated fellow citizens. There are no vaccinated COVID critically ill patients in these units.
In all of our places, our inpatient units are at capacity, and so people have to either get better enough to go home, or if they succumb to their illnesses and die, that opens up a bed.
Like, I get furious pretty fast because where we are right now, we didn't have to do this, and where we are right now is avoidable. We didn't have to go here. We have a very low vaccination rate in our community here in Idaho, and nobody's masked. And people are like, yeah, it's all open, it's all free, and it's devastating to me.
It's so disheartening that these families are so sad, and they all ask, well, what could I have done? Will the vaccine save them now? No, but you could have done that before.
From the minute I began to say anything about the lockdown here and my concerns, I was labeled as a Trump supporter in America, and I got some pretty heavy feedback. When it came to the beginning of this year, and the Barrington guys were talking about the vaccine as being the deal breaker, you know, and I thought, okay, I have a terrible fear of needles. I hate needles. I don't want to be, and I don't even like blood samples, you know, anything like that. But I believed them. I followed that path. And when they started to talk about rolling out the vaccine, I smelled a rat again, you know, just the way the focus was on this, and there was a race, and then it became political and national, and I thought, here we go again, it's the same old shit. But I was diagnosed with emphysema a couple of years ago, and I thought, well, I fit that bracket. That's pretty vulnerable. I mean, I'm 76, and if there is such a thing as this, and we didn't know anybody, you know, where I lived, there was nobody that we could, even friends of friends of friends were. It was thin on the ground. I thought, well, I ought to have this vaccination for my kids, you know, just so that I don't want to drop dead on them, or I don't want them to lose me. I don't want to lose them. All these the normal, natural responses, I think. And then so I went and I got the notification you can come and get, and I was holding out for AstraZeneca because it came from Oxford. And so, you know, I'm pretty naive about this stuff. And I thought, well, that's, and also I'd heard that it was old school method of inoculation. And I went and had the jab, and I got a little green, like a library card, and I thought, well, that's what I'm going to show the people when I get on the plane. There's a lot of funny stuff about it, and within several hours, I was shaking like a leaf, and I went to bed early, and I couldn't get warm, and I thought, am I running a fever? I was boiling hot and sweating, and then I was cold, and I was out for the count for about a week, and I had been preparing for a project where I was going to be playing acoustic guitar with a couple of musicians, and we were going to film it. That week knocked me out.
Our census in a 24-hour period's been consistently higher than anything I've been used to. You know, lobbies that we're not being able to move people out of for, you know, hours and hours at a time. You know, longest wait periods, and just a lot of fear. I think a lot of confusion also with trying to kind of reconcile what people are seeing on the TV versus what they're being told by their doctor and their medical professionals, and kind of looking to, you know, us and other staff members here sort of unsure as to who to trust and what to kind of do to protect themselves the best they can. It is real, and that it's dangerous, and that the single most important step that they can take in order to protect themselves and the people around them is to get vaccinated fully and follow the recommendations from their doctor and from the CDC. I know it can be scary, and it can be, you know, a little bit unnerving, especially when the people around you that you know and love and trust and your family are, you know, experiencing vaccine hesitancy as well. I would strongly encourage them to get vaccinated, do as much research as they possibly can surrounding it, and when you do dive into that research, it shows unequivocally that the benefits of receiving that vaccine, the lives that it can save, both your life, the ones around you, are the benefits just such strongly outweigh the you know, potential risks.
Ontario will be rolling out a COVID-19 vaccine passport later this month, but meanwhile in Florida, Richard?
The exact opposite is happening, Erica. I saw this today and I said, we got to talk about it because all the stories today here are about the vax passports and certificates, right? And we found out yesterday that if a business that's required to doesn't ask for your certificate, they're going to get fined $1,000 here in Ontario. Meantime, in Florida, if a business does ask you for proof of vaccination, they will be fined $5,000, Erica.
$5,000, my goodness. Okay.
The world that is Florida down there. Yes, Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill this week that banned vaccine passports. The fines will start September 16th if you're asked to show proof of vaccination. COVID cases have been surging in Florida over the summer, and over the course of the pandemic, 44,500 Floridians have lost their life to the virus in a state, Erica, that has just 7 million more than Ontario. In many ways, you can make some comparisons population-wise between Ontario and Florida, but boy, they have been disproportionately affected by the virus. So you got to scratch your head as to why they bring in this law.
It's like entering the upside down. Everything is the opposite of what it is here.
Well, the Confederacy of Dummies continues to hold the same people in this country hostage as the Delta variant rages out of control, all because they, like a poorly trained dog, will not take their medicine. I don't understand these people. Half of them still don't even believe the virus is real. They'll buy fully into that water into wine shit with no evidence, but then see multiple elderly neighbors die and think it's some kind of government cough gun conspiracy or whatever. And then the ones that do believe in it have somehow arrived at the conclusion that the most appropriate response to the Delta variant would be to send all the Mexicans back to their country. What the fuck is going on? Listen, I got a little confession to make. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool liberal, been Antifa since at least 2003, and in early 2020, I was skeptical of COVID too. I thought it'd be another SARS or swine flu situation, but here's the thing, I'm virus dumb. So shortly after that, when every smart person on earth started saying something different, I realized that maybe I was being an idiot. And I've been wearing a mask and staying the hell away from people ever since. It shouldn't be that hard to admit you were wrong about something if you give a shit about anybody but yourself. But that's the whole thing with these people, right? And they're like, we can't put that in our buzz. We don't know what's in that shot. Motherfucker, you don't know what's in anything. Tell me 3 things you consume that you know what's in it. You don't know what's in Mr. Pibb. You didn't know what was in them shots you got as a baby either, did you? Babies don't know shit about shots, and them turned out fine. I know it's hard to appreciate not polio, but you really need to try harder. And one of their biggest things the whole time was like, we can't shut the entire economy down just because a few 100,000 old people might die, okay? I got truck nut payments to make. But nobody's even saying that. Nobody's saying you can't go to work. Just swing by the goddamn Walmart first. Get a little prick in your arm, then go straight back to the Skull Flag factory. It'll be fine, okay? It's not that big of a deal. These people, they're pro-choice all of a sudden. I say with vaccines, it's a personal decision. Yeah, driving drunk's a personal decision too. You're still not allowed to do it on account of all the families you might tear apart. You don't have a right as an American to ruin everyone else's life, unless you're a billionaire, apparently. And that's exactly what y'all are doing right now. Fuck it, man. Just make them do it. Make them do it somehow. Make it impossible to do anything in this country without a vaccine, as long as you're able to get one. I'm over it. Just like their counterparts in Congress, we got to move on without these motherfuckers for everybody's sake. Treat them like that dog at the beginning of this thing and force the medicine down their throat. They'll get over it. They'll find another ball to chase. We can all go to the park, all right? God damn.
And the outbreaks that we are seeing already at schools right across the country, closures, class cancellations, which have marred the very first week back.
Last year, there would have been contact tracing, so we would have known at least if the case of COVID or respiratory illness was in their classroom. No, they just say 10% of kids are home, which is a staggering number of kids to be home with respiratory illness. So I'm left to ask my kids, hey, is anyone in your class absent? So 10% absent, who knows who's asymptomatic in school or even symptomatic in school?
Starting today, British Columbians will need one of these to get into many non-essential businesses and events. Now, people have been told to sign up online and either take a photo of it to keep on their phone like this or to print out a hard copy. They then need to take a piece of ID with them when they want to go to a business or an event, and staff there will use an app to scan it to determine it is in fact valid. Now, the province says that no private information will be stored at those events or businesses to protect people's privacy. There is also a bit of a grace period. Anyone who has not yet done this has until September the 26th to use the card that they received when they got the vaccination, and anyone who only has one dose has until October the 24th to get that second dose to be allowed in. Now, this applies for non-essential places, including dine-in restaurants, bars, gyms, concerts, ticketed sporting events, and indoor events of over 50, including things like wedding receptions. It does not apply for retail, grocery stores, banks, many coffee shops, worship services, hotels, or public transit. And the province has been firm in not allowing any exceptions.
This has been a video from a sleepy terrier from his little sleeping cat friend, Biscuit. Bye.